as a college, we have a lot of experience with ESF, but primarily on the co-financing side, up until around 2017, when we started working with the LEP and looking at the other ESF projects that the LEP were developing. Two of them at the time were a business scale-up programme, which is aimed at, it's essentially a leadership and management programme and consultancy for SMEs in the York, North Yorkshire and East Riding area. So that was one of them. And the other one was called the Specialist Skills Support Programme, and that had a myriad of components to it. It was a little bit like social inclusion meets business. So again, it was supporting SMEs, but it was or is has various strands, such as supporting businesses working with the ageing workforce, encouraging businesses to take on graduates, supporting businesses to look at a wider recruitment pool, such as those with in-work benefits, etc., supporting women in STEM, and so it's a really sort of diverse project, but primarily it's working with businesses and getting them to think about their HR practices as well, working with all those different diverse groups. So that's the Specialist Skills Support Programme. So it was those two programs, the Business Scale-Up Programme and Specialist Skills, that was, for us, it was a foray into the actual cost ESF as opposed to co-financing. And that's when we started looking for, or looking at support from the TAP team, basically, because it was a new experience for us. The LEP actually alerted us to the TAP team's work, which was really useful. And it was apparent that the TAP team were putting on a whole series of workshops to support applicants that were at different stages of the process, whether they were right at the beginning, whether they were writing an outline application or a full application, because back in 2017, it was a two-stage application process. But also there were finance and audit workshops, there were state aid workshops, cross-cutting themes workshops, procurement, all public branding and publicity. So we took full advantage of those, because although we'd had experience on the co-finance side previously, it was a very different sort of way of DWP as a funding body managed things quite differently, or so it seemed, on a direct cost project. So we felt as though we had a lot to learn. So not only myself, but various members of my team attended these workshops, and they were really useful to support us in our bid writing and understand how DWP might manage us as well, but also how to write the actual applications themselves, so the different components and what was acceptable. Obviously, they supported us with the guidance. They pinpointed us to the myriad of ESF guidance that there is. So there was a lot of reading involved. But apart from those workshops, there was also a follow-up service, really. If we had queries, we could go to people. We had a really good support from for a number of members of that team, so that was really useful to us.
So we've been helping people into employment for a long time. This project is about the next level, so it's once they've actually got into work, it's how we help them have a better career. So it's about getting a better qualification, getting a permanent job as opposed to a temporary job, going from a 0-hour contract to something more permanent. In 2016, we were talking about how we have been really good at supporting people to get into work, but once they're in employment, that was the end of our job, really. That was the end of their ongoing journey. So the idea behind this funding was to be able to continue to support people through their career, which made us apply for the funding at that time.
I think what we aim to do as well, we embed sort of coaching to empower people as well, to stop the revolving door effect of, maybe we do get them into a job, but it might be a week's work in a factory. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but then we see them coming back in. And that's where the Next Level project sort of came into effect, is there wasn't a lot of funding for people that actually had employment, it's all for unemployed, and to raise their aspirations really and help them move forward within the jobs.
Well, the moment I came in, met Sarah, she was actually really, really nice to talk to, very supportive. She spoke about options, what I had, voluntary training, this, that, but obviously I wanted a job at the end of it. She helped me with the application forms. Job hunting, yes, and I used to do it as it is, non-stop anyway. Even before I joined ONGO, I was doing that. But when I had appointments with her to just filling a specific form, she helped me with it, and maybe the way she put the wording on the supporting information, that helped me more, I think. It's a permanent job, but it's contracted 18 hours, which I'm very happy because that's all I needed, stable hours to work around with my daughter.
I had some really good support from the TAP team. I went to see them when we first had the idea about the project, to check it for something that would be likely to be funded. They agreed that it was, and then I had support the whole way through writing of the application. Questions that I found difficult to answer, that I maybe didn't quite understand, specifically around state aid, and they were really helpful in providing me with that information as we went through the process. I would say to anyone else, I would really try and have a go at putting in an application. It is really hard work. There are questions in the bidding process that you will find difficult to understand, but the TAP team are on hand to help you with those types of questions, and it really is worth persevering. We've made such a difference to some of the people in North Lincolnshire with the funding that we've received. I would suggest anybody really just tries to go for it.
It's nice to know that we can do things on our own. And that we can still help people out in the community and be able to provide the service that we've already always provided. But it would be nice to be able to get that little bit of additional funding, because there has been circumstances where it's been a little bit difficult to be able to source some of the more costly training that people have wanted, which maybe if we had the funding from such as ESF, we would have been able to do, whereby being self-sustained, it was something that was a little bit too much out of our reach, really.
The TAP team are really helpful in helping me to make a difference to a lot of people in North Lincolnshire through getting people into work, and then having this funding to help them get a better job is really making a difference.
I absolutely love working on the Next Level project. It's very rewarding, and you get to deal with all sorts of people from all walks of life, but to make one person's life better is the best thing ever.